Viewers, welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. It's a Dodge Journey here. I don't remember what year it is, but I do know it has the big 3.6 liter in it. It also has an ABS light on, and it is showing 0 wheel speed coming from this right front wheel. Now it says active wheel speed sensors in it, and I checked it yesterday. The connector's kind of a pisser to get to under the hood. I checked it on a scope. I have my correct voltage there, but I'm not getting any switching. So these switch on really low microamps or really small voltage. You can see it on a scope, the AC couple it, and you can watch a little square wave. We've done several videos on these. I don't know if the magnetic ring on the back of this wheel bearing is junk. I can barely see in there from the back side. I can't really tell. I don't know if it's that or if it's a failed sensor. And I have really no way to tell short of putting a different sensor in and rotating the wheel. So I've ordered both just so I have both items on hand. So we'll do that first. We're going to pull the wheel off. I'm going to put a sensor in it. We're going to give it a little spin around, see if we can see any more with that sensor out, and then kind of take our diag from there. Got the wheel off. Now the customer did tell me that all of this stuff is brand new, the sensor and the bearing. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's good, folks. Keep that in mind. That is something that oftentimes will sidetrack folks. So we're going to see if we can't weasel this up out of there. Get a little screwdriver. See if we can get underneath it. I think it's stuck in there pretty good. Come on, baby. Must be they didn't get the rust out of the hole. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see if we can't weasel it out. We might have to get some pliers on it, kind of tweak it around here a little bit. Hopefully we don't break it getting it out. It's stuck like Chuck. You know how stuck Chuck can get. Wow. Come on. Ooh, there she goes. Woo! And tight like a tiger. So it is a little crusty down in the old hole. I don't see where the bearing has been contacting it. I'm going to get a light. I'm going to stick my head right here where you guys can't see it. I'm going to look down in there and see if I can see anything. The bearing does appear to be new. It is shiny here on the outside, or it's newer rather. So I looked in there the best I could, and it appears the magnet strip is intact. I stuck a pick in there and I could feel it touching the magnetic strip. Even if the magnetic strip had a bad spot in it per se, I still should have seen that on the scope. So we're going to clean this hole out a little bit. Tear this off a little, just using some emery cloth. And a little whizzy tool here. This way here we can stick our sensor in there and get it back out. Alright, that should make things happier. It looks like this has been cleaned off. I'm going to clean off the outer surface here, make sure it's sitting in there flat. We'll blast it out with a blow. Now there's still some crud on the top side of this here. Let's see if we can't get that cleaned up a little bit better. Napper, not a sponsor. I've got the sensor here. We're going to open this up. We're not going to bother running it through all the holders and stuff. However, we are going to plug it in and see if we get a feedback loop from it at that point. That's kind of odd. I could show you the trick how to, open packages nicely, reseal them so they never know. Not that I would do that, but there is a way that it can be done. It's a little FYI for you. We'll slip it up out of there. And this one should slide down in there ever so nicely. Let's see, does it look just like the one that we took out? We'll better put that away before I cut the brake hose in half. It certainly does. Looks very similar. Just wanted to make sure the sensor was offset in the same, oops, you can't see. Make sure it was offset in the same position. Make sure this wasn't like a right-hand sensor, or a left-hand sensor, or the opposite side sensor that we're working on. Slides in ever so nicely. I'm going to bolt that down. We're going to plug it up, as they say. Then we're going to see if we have any wheel speed signal out of this wheel at this point. If not, we're going to check the backside of that wheel bearing. So the connector on this thing is a bit of a piss pot to get to. Not as bad as the driver's side. This one lives way down here in the back, in this hole back here. I shoved the wires through for the new sensor. I'm going to see if I can't finagle and get this one unplugged, get it plugged in. That way we can get the appropriate voltage to it, and we can see if this thing's switching at this point. What a mother-loving hoo-hoo that is. It's nice that you can just see it right from here, but getting your hands down there is another thing. So I've got it plugged into the connector, and I took and back probed it and got the wires running out and around, and I just hooked them to the Altel because I had that out already. So what we will do, and like I say, I have, the wire just kind of, hanging down here. And we want to know if we can read anything. So we'll come over here. We will go to measurements. We will go to the scope. Let that thing get fired up. And you can read these on DC voltage, but they switch very minute amounts of voltage, like maybe 0.3 of a volt. So we can see, and this is what I seen yesterday. See, I was holding about 11 volts, and that's pretty normal. What we want to do is we want to go here. We want to AC couple it. About 1 volt should be fine, because we're just going to look for these minute changes, and then we will change the time here, and let's put like 2 seconds per division. And then what we'll do is we'll go down and we'll spin this wheel right here. Let me set you down there, folks. We'll spin this wheel. Can you see me? We'll see if we can get a full 3 seconds. I'm gonna wait for that screen to refresh, so just bear with me. We're still waiting. It's got a couple seconds to go. And then we're going to try to spin this. I got the key on and the car neutral. Okay, is that wheel on the other side spinning? Okay, just a minute, folks. Ready? Yep. Just tell me if it's spinning steady. Yeah. Okay, it's not pausing or anything? Nope. Yeah, pretty steady. Okay, let's go have a look-see. Got my workout. My workout plan getting swole. Alright, we're going to stop that. And we're going to enhance. Enhance, yeah. And what we want to see, this should be at least 360 degrees rotation of that wheel. And we want to see if there's any missing teeth. And it doesn't appear. So now it's going to look funny because we've AC coupled it. I'll show you the other way we can do this. This looks good. We're going to hit play again. We can look at it on the DC voltage. The way to do this properly is to use amperage, but I don't have a microamp clamp. I've seen some guys make a shunt. Let's see. So we should see some very minute changes. Let's go spin that again. I'll bring you with me. And we'll set you down. And let's see. Is that showing 2 seconds per division? I don't think it is. Let me go change that. Well, it said 2 seconds per division, but it certainly wasn't because it was zippy zapping across the screen there pretty quick. The Oscilloscope has some glitches, don't get me wrong. Alright, wait for that to refresh on another screen. Here we go. Whee! Whee! Okay, that should be at least 360-ish. Then we'll come up here, and you can see the difference. So see how small that is? Enhance, enhance, enhance. And we can stretch her out. Come on, baby. So we can look at it like this. So, same way. The good news is I don't see any broken teeth or missing teeth on the magnetic tone ring. So I say we're good. I think this fella just had a bad sensor. Plain and simple, easy peasy. We're gonna have to tidy this up a little bit. I'm gonna pull out my back probes. Let it be a lesson to you folks. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. I've seen a lot of folks fall into that trap. For example, we just did that Subaru the other day, right, Jay?
What's that?
That Subaru we just did. That guy threw thousands of dollars into a Subaru. Had a lien code. EJ25 engine, older Subaru 2.5. I mean, fuel pump, injectors. I mean, he did it all, the full package. Mass airflow sensor, oxygen sensors, did the whole deal. And it simply was just a bad mass airflow. And it was brand new. So I sent him down to the junkyard here. He got us a used one, we popped it in, and bada bing, bada boom. Fuel trims went from plus 30 to 0, or close to it. Unfortunately, folks, we see this all too often, and we're not exempt from it either, you know. I think I've, perhaps like a lot of guys in the shops, have probably been exposed to enough new bad parts that I just don't doubt it anymore. Which I imagine it's easy getting that mindset, especially, you know, if it's an expensive part. Let's say you put, you know, this was like a $500 sensor, you know, you would hope that it was good, and you would put it in, and you know, you're trying to combat this problem that you've been having, and you know, you replace the sensor, you did the bearing, it still doesn't work. Well, at that point, it's got to be the brain box, as the other local shop here likes to say. One of the local shops, he's big on the brain boxes. Yeah, the main board, he always says, yeah, go ahead and put the main board in that one. And oftentimes it's, you know, simply just, you know, a crappy part, especially if it's some kind of, you know, eBay special part, something like that. So keep that in mind. Just got to run this wire. I want to get this thing run the right way here before we get too far. Yank the old one out. All right, that one looks good. Had to go do a diag at work the other day. I hadn't run that thing to talk about. Did a diag after work the other day at another shop for a Chevrolet, 2003 Chevrolet. No start, no spark. They thought it was the main board. And I show up, and indeed, it had spark. It was a distributor. It was a 4.3 liter. It was a distributor. And I show up, and they said they had no spark, and they were checking it at the plug wire. Mistake number one. So I checked it at the coil, and indeed we had spark, but the spark was very weak. However, that was a problem. The main problem is that the rotor button was burnt right through. I have a picture of it, I'll show you if you guys stick around long enough. It was burnt right through and shorted out to the distributor, but they had misdiagnosed it in the beginning, and they did they put a ignition coil on it and a new ignition control module. Obviously it still wouldn't run. So I showed up, checked it out, told them they needed a new rotor button and they needed a new coil. And that was when he informed me that that coil was brand new. And that's when I informed them I really don't care, it's junk. Let me show you the picture. On my cell phone. Here we go. This one was a good one. Let's see. Not only was it burnt through, it like damn near melted the rotor, so all that black spot was where it was arcing through. And then on the back side of it here, let me get a picture of the back side of the rotor. There was just a small pinhole where it was burnt through. So right there above my crusty thumb, right down there, is where it burnt through and was arcing to the distributor shaft. So that was the original cause, that was the original problem, but by putting on new parts, they created another problem. So they went to the garbage can, got the coil out of the garbage can, installed it, and the truck fired right up, ran like a champ. Collected my money, drank a beer with the guy, and then went home for dinner. Get these plugged in. So the moral, that didn't stay in, did it? There, now she clicked. The moral of the story, I guess if we could have a moral, if we could summarize today's video, would be just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. Keith DeFazio always said it's new. It's an acronym for never ever works. So just because it's new doesn't mean it's good, folks. Believe your data. Let me turn you so we can look each other in the eyes. That's better and creepy. But yeah, just because it's new doesn't mean it's worked. Trust your data. Do some testing and go with the data, because the data doesn't lie. In this case, the data was showing me I've got proper voltage. I know my control module's hooked up. I don't have a short to ground, short to power. Everything's there. We inspected the back of the bearing. It has a magnetic tone ring. It's likely a failed sensor. Or we could have had a magnetic tone ring that was just completely wonky. I've never seen that before. I've seen them where they're missing little segments, or it's perfectly intact but a segment has the wrong polarity on it. But you can easily see that on a scope. So went with the data, changed the part, and we move on. And that's that. So why don't you guys move on down to that comment section. Tell me your war stories, the worst new part failure you've ever had, whether it be an engine, transmission, a sensor that took you 8 hours to get to, something that sent you on a wild goose chase. We've all been there. Don't be embarrassed. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.